faster results, faster growth, faster success. Yet in our race for productivity, we often forget a simple truth. A busy life is not always a meaningful life. A full calendar does not automatically create a fulfilled heart. To reinvent life and productivity, we must first redefine what it means to be productive. Productivity is not about doing more things. It is about doing the right things with intention, with discipline, and with purpose. True productivity begins in silence, not in noise. It begins when we step back from the distractions and ask ourselves a hard question. What kind of person am I becoming because of how I spend my time? Reinvention is not about throwing your life away and starting over. It is about returning to your deepest values and aligning your daily actions with them. It is not a rejection of who you were. It is a refinement of who you are meant to be. A disciplined life is not a restricted life. It is a liberated life. When we structure our time, we are not imprisoning ourselves. We are freeing ourselves from chaos. When we control our distractions, we are not limiting our world. We are expanding our soul. We are not machines designed merely to produce. We are souls designed to grow. Work is not just a way to earn. It is a way to become. Every effort you make, every habit you build, every distraction you resist is shaping your character. To reinvent your life, you do not need a perfect plan. You need a courageous heart, a heart willing to let go of comfort, a heart willing to embrace discomfort, a heart brave enough to grow when it would be easier to stay the same. Reinventing productivity is not about becoming superhuman. It is about becoming fully human present, focused, intentional, and alive. Start small. Start today. Choose purpose over pressure. Choose depth over speed. Choose meaning over motion, because in the end, the most productive life is not the one that produces the most things, but the one that produces the most transformation. Productivity is not about doing more, but becoming more. This idea challenges the modern obsession with output, speed, and constant motion. We live in a world that celebrates packed schedules, endless tasks, and visible hustle, yet rarely pauses to ask what kind of person is being formed through all of this activity. True productivity is not measured by how many boxes we tick in a day, but by the depth of growth that takes place within us as we engage with our responsibilities. When productivity becomes only about volume, people burn out, lose direction, and feel empty even after achieving great things. But when productivity becomes about becoming more, work takes on a different meaning. It becomes a process of shaping character, clarifying identity, and strengthening inner discipline. Every task, large or small, becomes an opportunity to cultivate focus, resilience, patience, and integrity. The work is no longer just external, it becomes deeply internal. Becoming more means becoming more aware. It means understanding your own mind, your habits, your weaknesses, and your strengths. A truly productive life is one in which a person learns how to observe their thoughts instead of being controlled by them. It is a life where distractions are not merely avoided, but understood. The person who becomes more productive is not the one who escapes chaos completely, but the one who learns how to stand calmly within it. This kind of productivity asks for intentional living. It invites you to make decisions not out of impulsiveness or pressure, but out of clarity. The question shifts from how much can I do today to who am I becoming through what I am doing today. That shift may seem small, but it completely transforms the direction of a life. Actions stop being random and start becoming aligned. Effort stops being draining and starts becoming meaningful. To become more through productivity is to recognize that time is not just a resource to be spent, but a gift to be honored. Each hour is not simply something to be filled, but something to be lived with purpose. When a person understands this, they stop rushing through life and start walking through it with intention. They stop treating their days like obstacles to overcome and start treating them like opportunities to grow. Productivity that leads to becoming more also requires the courage to slow down. In a culture that praises speed, slowing down feels wrong, even lazy, but depth can never be achieved in a rush. Growth cannot be microwaved. Real development happens in spaces where reflection is allowed, where silence is embraced, and where learning is continuous. The person who is becoming more is not afraid of these quiet spaces, because they know that silence is not emptiness, but preparation. This deeper view of productivity transforms failure as well. When productivity is only about doing more, failure feels like loss, weakness, and shame. But when productivity is about becoming more, failure becomes a teacher. Mistakes become mirrors. Obstacles become training grounds. You do not measure yourself only by what you achieved, but by what you learned, how you adapted, and how you grew. In this way, even setbacks become part of the progress. Becoming more also means becoming more disciplined, not in a harsh or punishing sense, but in a purposeful one. Discipline becomes a form of self-respect. It is no longer about forcing yourself to work, but about honoring the future version of yourself. You begin to understand that your habits are not just routines, but votes for the person you are becoming. Every focused hour, every resisted distraction, every completed task shapes your identity. This version of productivity brings alignment between inner life and outer work. You are no longer divided between who you are at home and who you are at work. Your values begin to guide your actions consistently. Integrity becomes more important than image. Depth becomes more valuable than speed. Purpose becomes stronger than pressure. In that alignment, life begins to feel less chaotic and more coherent. The focus on becoming more also makes productivity more humane. You stop measuring your worth by comparison. You stop racing against others. The only meaningful competition becomes the one between who you were and who you are trying to become. This creates peace rather than anxiety, motivation rather than fear, and growth rather than exhaustion. It allows you to celebrate progress without arrogance and recognize weakness without shame. When productivity is understood as a process of becoming, life itself becomes a workshop for growth. Conversations become classrooms. Challenges become training sessions. Ordinary moments become opportunities to practice patience, gratitude, humility, and courage. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to change your life and start using present conditions to refine your character. In this way, productivity is transformed from a mechanical system into a spiritual discipline. It is no longer about squeezing more hours out of the day, but about drawing more meaning out of each hour. It is no longer about creating a longer list of achievements, but about shaping a deeper, stronger, wiser version of yourself with every single effort you make. Discipline creates freedom, and focus creates meaning. At first, this sounds like a paradox, because many people see discipline as limitation and focus as restriction. But in reality, the absence of discipline is what traps people in cycles of distraction, confusion, and constant overwhelm. When there is no structure in life, time slips away unnoticed, energy is wasted, and potential remains buried. Discipline is not a cage. It is the framework that holds a strong and stable life together. Without discipline, impulses become masters, moods decide routines, comfort becomes a priority. This kind of life feels easy in the moment but becomes heavy in the long run. A disciplined life, on the other hand, is built on ownership. It is built on systems that protect your time, your energy, and your attention. When you decide in advance what matters and commit to it, you remove the daily burden of indecision. You stop negotiating with laziness and start moving with purpose. Freedom does not come from having no rules. It comes from mastering yourself. When your habits are guided by intention, you are no longer controlled by every notification, every craving, and every emotional wave. You are free to choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. You are free to rest without guilt because your effort has been honest and focused. You are free to say no without fear because your priorities are clear. Focus, in the same way, is not about intensity alone, but direction. A scattered mind may be busy all day and still achieve nothing of real value. A focused mind may do fewer things, but each thing carries weight. Focus gives meaning to effort. It creates depth where there was once only noise. It turns ordinary work into purposeful action because attention becomes devotion to what truly matters. When discipline and focus work together, life begins to simplify. Complexity decreases, confusion fades. The mind becomes calmer because it is no longer being pulled in every direction. You start to live less reactively and more intentionally. You do not wait for motivation to arrive because discipline has already built the pathway forward. You do not feel lost because focus has already narrowed your vision to what truly deserves your energy. Over time, this way of living changes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles to stay consistent and start becoming someone who can be trusted with responsibility. Confidence grows not from loud affirmations, but from quiet promises kept to yourself. Strength develops slowly, invisibly, through daily commitments honored and distractions resisted. In a world full of noise, speed, and endless options, discipline and focus act as anchors. They hold you steady when everything tries to pull you apart. They give shape to your days and clarity to your mind. They allow you to move through life with intention instead of chaos, with strength instead of weakness, with purpose instead of confusion. True reinvention begins with purpose, not pressure. Too many lives are built on stress, comparison, and the silent fear of falling behind. People change careers, habits, and identities not because they understand their calling, but because they feel pushed by expectations, deadlines, and the opinions of others. Pressure creates movement, but it does not create meaning. It produces speed without direction and change without clarity. Purpose, however, is different. Purpose is quiet, steady, and rooted in truth. It does not shout, it pulls. It does not rush, it guides. When a person moves from purpose, they are not trying to escape something, they are trying to build something. Reinvention born from pressure often feels dramatic, chaotic, and desperate. Reinvention born from purpose feels calm, aligned,